A man with such wishes is deserving of every respect for that alone. The prince uttered this copybook phrase in the firm conviction that it would have an excellent effect. He somehow instinctively guessed that such a hollow but agreeable phrase, if spoken aptly, might suddenly subdue and pacify the soul of such a man, and especially in such a position as the general's. In any case, such a visitor had to be sent away with his heart eased, and in that lay his task. The phrase flattered, touched, and greatly pleased, the general suddenly waxed sentimental, instantly changed tone, and lapsed into rapturously lengthy explanations. But no matter how the prince strained, no matter how he listened, he literally could not understand a thing. The general spoke for some 10 minutes, heatedly, quickly, as if he had no time to articulate his crowding thoughts. In the end tears even glistened in his eyes, but all the same it was only phrases with no beginning or end, unexpected words and unexpected thoughts, which broke through quickly and unexpectedly and leapt one over the other. Enough. You've understood me, and I am at peace, he suddenly concluded, getting up. A heart such as yours cannot fail to understand a sufferer. Prince, you are as noble as an ideal. What are others compared with you? But you are young, and I give you my blessing. In the final end I have come to ask you to appoint me an hour for a serious conversation, and in this lies my chiefest hope. I seek only friendship and heart, Prince, I never could control the demands of my heart. But why not now? I'm prepared to hear out. No, Prince, no. The general interrupted hotly. Not now. Now is a dream. It is too important, too important. This hour of conversation will be the hour of my ultimate destiny. It will be my hour, and I would not wish us to be interrupted at such a sacred moment by the first comer, the first impudent fellow, and not seldom such an impudent fellow. He suddenly bent over the prince with a strange, mysterious, and almost frightened whisper, such an impudent fellow as is not worth the heel of your foot, my beloved prince. Oh, I don't say of my foot. Make special note that I did not mention my foot. I respect myself enough to be able to say it without beating around the bush, but you alone are able to understand that, by rejecting my own heel in this case, I am showing, perhaps, an extraordinary pride of dignity. Besides you, no one else will understand, and he at the head of all the others. He doesn't understand anything, Prince, he's totally unable to understand. One must have heart in order to understand. In the end the prince was almost frightened and arranged to meet the general the next day at the same hour. The man went away cheerful, extremely comforted, and almost calm. In the evening, past 6 o'clock, the prince sent to ask Lebedev to come to him for a moment. Lebedev appeared with extreme haste, considering it an honor, as he began to say at once on coming in. There seemed to be no shadow of that 3-day-long hiding and obvious avoidance of meeting the prince. He sat down on the edge of a chair, with grimaces, with smiles, with laughing and peering little eyes, with a rubbing of hands, and with an air of the most naive expectation of hearing some sort of capital information, long awaited and guessed by all. The prince winced again. It was becoming clear to him that everyone had suddenly begun to expect something from him. That everyone looked at him as if wishing to congratulate him for something, dropping hints, smiling, and winking. Keller had already stopped by 3 times for a moment, and also with an obvious wish to congratulate him. He began each time rapturously and vaguely, never finished anything, and quickly effaced himself. For the last few days he had been drinking especially heavily somewhere and had made a row in some billiard parlor. Even Kolya, despite his sadness, also once or twice began talking vaguely about something with the prince. The prince asked Lebedev directly and somewhat irritably what he thought of the general's present state and why he was in such anxiety. In a few words he recounted that day's scene for him. Everybody has his anxieties, Prince, and, especially in our strange and anxious age, sir. So it is, sir, Lebedev answered with a certain dryness and fell silent, looking hurt, like a man whose expectations have been badly disappointed. What philosophy? Smiled the prince. Philosophy's needed, sir, very much needed in our age, for practical application, sir, but it's held in disdain, sir, that's what. For my part, my much esteemed prince, though I used to be honored by your trustfulness towards me in a certain point, which is known to you, sir, but only to a certain degree, and by no means further than the circumstances that essentially concern that same point. I realize it and am not complaining in the least. Lebedev, you seem to be angry about something? Not at all, not in the least, my much esteemed and most radiant prince, not in the least. Lebedev cried out ecstatically, putting his hand to his heart. But, on the contrary, I precisely and immediately comprehended that, neither in worldly position, nor in development of mind and heart, nor in accumulated wealth, nor in my previous behavior, nor yet in learning am I in any way deserving of your honored and lofty trust, which far exceeds my hopes, and that if I may serve you, it is as a slave or a hired servant, not otherwise. I am not angry, but sad, sir. Lucian Timofeich, for pity's sake. Not otherwise. And so it is now, so it is in the present case. Meeting you and following you with my heart and thought, I said to myself, I'm unworthy of friendly communications, but in my quality as landlord I may, perhaps, receive orders in due time, by the expected date, so to speak, or at least notification in view of certain forthcoming and expected changes. As he uttered this, Lebedev simply riveted his sharp little eyes on the prince, who was staring at him in amazement. He was still hoping to satisfy his curiosity. I understand decidedly nothing, the prince cried all but wrathfully, and, you are a terrible intriguer. He suddenly burst into the most genuine laughter. Lebedev instantly laughed, too, and his brightened eyes showed at once that his hopes had now become clearer and even twice greater. And do you know what I shall tell you, Lucian Timofeich? Only don't be angry with me, but I'm surprised at your naivety, and not only yours. You expect something from me with such naivety, precisely now, at this moment, that I'm even abashed and ashamed before you, because I have nothing to satisfy you with. But I swear to you that there is decidedly nothing, if you can imagine that. The prince laughed again. Lebedev assumed a dignified air. It is true that he was sometimes even too naive and importunate in his curiosity, but at the same time he was a rather cunning and devious man, and on certain occasions even too insidiously taciturn, by constantly rebuffing him, the prince had almost prepared in him an enemy for himself. But the prince rebuffed him not because he despised him, but because the theme of his curiosity was a delicate one. Only a few days ago the prince had looked upon some of his dreams as upon a crime, but Luki and Timofeek had taken the prince's retorts as personal revulsion and suspicion towards himself, had gone away with a wounded heart, and was jealous not only of Kolya and Keller, but even of his own daughter, Vera Lukianovna. Even at that very moment, he could have informed the prince of a certain piece of news interesting for him in the highest degree, and may have sincerely wished to, but he fell gloomily silent and did not inform him. In what, essentially, can I be of service to you, my much esteemed prince, since all the same you have now summoned me? He said finally, after some silence. It was, essentially, about the general. The prince, who had lapsed into a moment's thought, roused himself, and, concerning that theft of yours, which you informed me about. Concerning what, sir?